Hello, welcome to the channel and thanks for joining me. Today we're going to take a look at this Hitachi TRK-8130E. It's around 40 years old now and due a new lease of life, I think. I've had this one quite a while, to be honest. It's been languishing on the shelf and I thought there's no time like the present to see if we can crack it open, give it a bit of a service, see if we can get it up and running again. So I'll give you a quick look at the features. Essentially it's a radio cassette recorder, of course. It's a four-way speaker system by the looks of it. I'm assuming they are real tweeters up in the corners there, but we'll find out, I guess. Also, you've got your stereo built-in condenser microphones too. In terms of EQ, you've got your bass and treble, and also a split left-right volume control on this as well, which is quite a nice feature. I've got to say the pots on this feel really smooth. They've got some nice resistance to them, so they haven't had an awful lot of wear, but we will give them a bit of a clean. You've also got a mono stereo sort of dip switch there for the MPX on the FM stereo, and then your usual suspects for the transport controls on the cassette mech, with your pause on the left, fast forward and rewind that also function as cue and review once the play is in progress. You've also got your record, of course, and the stop eject button. In terms of the tape then, you've got normal or type 1. It also plays type 2, and it's also set up as well for type 4, the metal cassettes just there. You'll see that on the door, along also with the soft eject system, which really is a treat, I've got to say. So I like these kind of era of boomboxes because it was when you had nice functions there, but also the quality, the build quality was still there, and this one certainly does feel nice and solid. It's quite a rugged looking unit. It survived the test of time very well. It's not smashed about or anything like that. The handle's still intact. The aerial is original. It's a bit loose, but we'll tighten that up a bit later. Still got the little plastic tip on the end as well. Yeah, so all good, all in all, I think. The LEDs work, I believe, on this one. Now, the quartz digital clock doesn't work. Now, these old sort of LCD screens do generally give up the ghost. I've messed about with a few over the years on TRK-8330s and stuff like that. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but you find it generally is the zebra connectors that have given up the ghost on those. So we may or may not get that working today. We'll have a quick look at it, but that's not really the priority. What I want to do today is get the cassette mech up and running. The radio itself works fine, so I won't show you that. And I also do know from previous tests on this that it chews tapes, so the take-up's not working on it, and that was a while ago, so I suspect any belt or belts that are in there will have sort of given up the ghost by now, possibly just gone slack on me, or possibly even just turned to tar, as a lot of the old Hitachi ones tend to do. So just a quick mention on the front, you've also got your headphone out and your microphone in as well, along with your power status light. So there you go then, that's a quick overview. As I say, radio I think is okay. The tape in theory should work. I haven't heard the amp side of things yet, so we'll check all that out once we've got the belts in. Plan for today then, crack it open, give it a deck service. I do know that the transport controls are also quite lazy on this as well, so it's probably just a little bit greased up, a bit gunked up. So we'll do the usual, we'll clean the heads, the capstan, the pinch roller, clean and re-grease the mech, change the belts, and clean the switches inside and out, give the case a bit of a wipe inside and out, and give it a deep polish, and that should be it. So, as I say, without further ado, let's get on a towel of destiny and get it open. Okay, so on the face of it, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 screws to remove from the back case. And then we'll lift the back cover away. We've probably got some battery connections and possibly the antenna as well to the board. Yep, so black and green cables to the board just there. And the power leads also to the board on that side. And a few more just connected as well. The blue, the white and the red. And I imagine these are to do with the quartz clock because they're coming from the small battery compartment on the back case. So we'll just get these away. Also got the orange and blue just there as well. So there's quite a few cables come off the back case so far. We've got the 3 here we've got the 2 antenna ones, we've got the 2 power ones, plus these orange and blue. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think that could be a record for the amount of screws off the back case. Either way, there it is in its glory. So we've got the power transformer there, of course, and the relevant sort of power connections and cables, connectors, antennas there. So we'll get that away and let's take a closer look at what we're left with. Okay, well, it doesn't look too crazy really for a Hitachi TRK anyway. There seems to be more multi-plugs and not too many bullet connectors onto the actual board, so disassembling this shouldn't be too bad. Got a couple of actuators just here. That's for your radio waveband selector switch across there. That's your function selector switch just there. Obviously your record play bar as well. We have things like speaker connections or a multi-plug. On about speakers, incidentally, yes, they are genuine tweeters, 8 ohm 3 watts just up in the corners there, so that's nice to know. Got the board behind there for things like the clock and what have you. Also got the microphone board just there, the headphone board, the little power lead to the front case to tell you the LED status of the power for the unit, the record playback head multi-connector, the erase head connector. Yeah, so it doesn't look too bad, to be fair. So I'm going to take a few photos and just start picking away at this. Shouldn't be too bad a job. Oh, incidentally, just having a quick look through, I can also just see the belt as well. That's great news. Feels really tight actually. I wonder if someone's been in here and not put the right belt on. Doesn't look, to be fair, like anyone has been in here because all the original connectors look like they're in good condition and in the right place. Looks way too tidy for most people that have messed around with these units in the past. But I'm just having a look and it doesn't look too bad in there. I can see the counter belt as well. You won't see any of that just now, but rest assured I think this isn't going to be too bad. So I've just made a start on picking various things. We've got the speaker multi-plug here, the tweeters multi-plug as well that's come away, the heads, that sort of stuff. Also just marked up anything that's connected independently or via spade connectors and stuff like that, so we know where they're from. Also just put a little mark as well on the actuators because they'll be coming off in a second, and we'll get the knobs off as well, and then we'll start looking at the screws. I'm guessing for this we'll probably have to pull the whole thing out in one go, and then yeah, we'll probably separate the board after, but we'll see how we go once we get in there. And you might as well remove the actuators at this stage. They're only going to fall off anyway, so may as well put them safe. Also, I'm going to take the handle away because that's just enclosed. It's sort of trapped between the two halves of the case. So again, that's only going to fall out and or get in our way. So we'll remove that now. And probably the knobs as well. All the knobs in there together, ready for giving a good clean, but we'll keep them for safekeeping for now. So now I'm going to try and retrieve the chassis mounting screws in true TRK style. So I think that's going to be the ones 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So now everything I think is pretty much taken away and labelled up. There's a fair old clutch of cables, to be honest, that have needed to be unplugged or separated out. Also got all the chassis screws out now. The door is in eject, so we're ready to go, I think. Hopefully we get this chassis out. It should come away fairly sensibly. Alright, well I can get to the top side of the mech now, so I'm going to give this a bit of a dust and a general clean. Wouldn't normally necessarily do the heads and stuff at this stage, but they're here now, so we may as well do those, the capstan, the pinch roller, and I think we'll turn it over because we're probably going to have to separate the mech from the other side anyway, just to get to the other belts, but whilst we're here, may as well get a bit of work done. Wouldn't be right without the yucky stick, would it? There we go. So I've just got the board screws out as well now, so hopefully we should be able to have access to the mech. Yep, not bad to be honest. We should be able to see what we're doing with that, I think. So I've just hooked up some power to this just to try it out real quick and see what's what. And we've got fast forward, we've got rewind, and play we don't have, and you can see it's spitting the tape out. You can see the take up reel's not turning. There's the tape gathering inside. So yeah, which means it might not even be a belt issue, it might be a take up issue on one of the rubbers on there, so we're going to have to give that extra special attention once we get inside. So I'm just going to disconnect the power now and we'll take a closer look at it. Apologies for the different audio on this bit, I've just moved in with a different camera, but basically I've cleaned the idler tyre, which I'm just getting framed just there, and it was turning, but obviously that's the one that turns to take up the tape once it's been fed through the capstan off the flywheel there. But actually I figured it was geared, but the gears are working this side from here. The actual rubber for this one is actuating off the pin on which this clutch is spinning here, and so I think that needs a clean and a polish inside that, which hopefully should therefore bite better onto that rubber and turn it just marginally quicker. It's kind of working. When I press play, it's turning the take up reel, it's just not turning it fast enough to collect the tape as it's being spat out from the pinch roller and the capstan. So I think hopefully if I can actually just clean that piece underneath there a bit more and then re-clean this in case it's got recontaminated, hopefully that will just give it enough bite to turn the take up reel a little bit quicker, and that should cure the problem, fingers crossed. I'll replace both of the belts though, although technically that one is working. You can see it turning, but there's very little resistance there now. It's definitely on its way out. This one on the other hand, almost like a guitar string, you can hear that. That's pretty tight. I'm surprised, that feels too tight really to my liking, which is a bit odd, especially for an old belt. Doesn't look like anyone's really been in here before, but maybe they have, but that just feels way too tight for me. Anyway, listen, I'm going to get this away, get the top plate off, have a look, see what's what, and clean everything up, clean the contact rubbers up. It may just be that they've hardened and might be slipping a bit on the flywheel, so we'll take a closer look at that in a minute. Getting the counter belt off this one's a bit interesting. It actually runs beneath one of the springs there, so you've got to detach that, get that away before we can remove the belt. But the main drive belt is as easy as that. Yeah, it doesn't look too misshapen. It doesn't feel either like it's slipping or anything like that. Yeah, it's odd really. Just think it's like too tight. I think if I was just trying to feel that, if I was fitting that belt, I don't think I'd have gone that tight with it. Very odd. If that's the original belt, you'd have expected that to be misshapen and, you know, rotted away or whatever by now. So I just can't help but think someone's gone in and changed that and maybe not put the right one in. But anyway, there we go. So just put that spring back before I lose it. But there's the counter belt look. And you can see what I mean with the difference. This one looks like it has barely been used, whereas this one's obviously an original belt. Either way, I'll measure up a new pair, get those ready, and we'll go from there. So I've just removed the flywheel so I can get in there, give that a good clean, and get any pickup from the groove there out of the flywheel. Also got the idler mechanism out as well, so we can give that a good clean and clean the tyre. It also allows us to get properly in here and clean the other idlers and that as well. So I'm just going to go and do that, and also clean out the pulleys, just freshen everything up, get a drop of oil on the motor spindle, all that kind of stuff. So having cleaned the tyres with alcohol, I'm now actually dressing them with some rubber renew as well, just to try and give them some extra bite, and a drop of oil on the motor spindle as well. Nothing crazy, just a tiny drop. Spin that up a bit, let it soak through for a while, then just go back and dress the pulley with some alcohol to clean up any residue, because we don't want to contaminate the belt, of course. Okay, everything's been cleaned now, I'm happy with that. I've also lubricated some of the sliders and the mech, and that's all good. So first thing then is to get the belts on. So I'm going to start with the counter belt. There we go. And I'll get the spring back on before I forget. Good stuff. Right, next for the idler then. Next, the flywheel, which is spinning beautifully. And the main belt, just make sure there's no twists in it. Lovely. Okay, so you might see the belt spinning. I've literally just hooked up some power directly for a second again. Hopefully this time we'll have some drive. So let's just check the... oh, there we go. Nice. Let me just reset the counter. There she goes. Right, so okay, it's fast forwarding nicely. It's rewinding nicely. And will it play? Come on. Take up's still not working very well, is it? Okay, let's revisit that then. See, that seems nice and strong. Unless it was from when the tape wasn't wound very well before. It seems to be okay now. Admittedly, you're kind of not very well in shot at the moment. We've got loads of other stuff going on here, but I've got the circuit board right behind me. Everything's kind of propped up on its power supply. Well, this time it appears like it might be alright, you know. So let's just try a different tape. So again, rewind, fast forward, and play. Ah! No, it's still chewing up. Darn it. See, the take-up reel seems to be nice and tight. It's obviously just not spinning fast enough. Close-up camera again, but I think what it is the tyre itself has actually just given up the ghost. Sometimes it's turning, sometimes it goes slowly, sometimes quickly. I'll try and move it. There we go, where are we? You can't see. There we go. There you go, slow, fast, quick, quick, slow, like a foxtrot. So yeah, so I'm wondering if actually that tyre's on its way out. That's what it's going to be, I think. So no matter what we do with the belt or how often we try and clean it and everything else, I think that bottom idler has just had it. So we have to get that all out and replace it by the looks of things. Right, I'm having one more crack at this as it is. I've just put the next size tyre on, which is fairly ginormous to be honest. But I've figured that if the only contact is between the rubber and the pin on this pulley and everything is clean, everything else is geared, and so the only thing now that I can think is why the take-up isn't picking up as well, even though it's turning, is that if the original tyre has actually lost some of its gauge and has become smaller in outer diameter, then obviously that's going to result in the take-up not being sort of geared highly enough, and the tyre that I'd put on thinking it was going to do away with the slippage is almost identical in size, but it's actually marginally smaller. Not much, but obviously that's not improved it. I don't know if it's made it worse. It certainly hasn't improved it. So what I've done now is I've gone the next stage up. I'm not really expecting this tyre to even stay on, but I thought if I can give it a go, the bite's certainly going to be there and the size is certainly going to be there. So this should work. If it does work, we'll see if it stays on and we might go with it. If not, I'm just going to have to find a slightly bigger tyre from somewhere else. I've actually got a couple of old Hitachi TRKs that I potentially could pinch one of these off, but it does mean stripping everything down. I mean, you've seen the mess we were already at, so I'm going to have to go and create another load of carnage somewhere else just to salvage one rubber off it, but we may have to do that yet. But such is the way sometimes. I had assumed it was just going to be a belt that had gone, or maybe the rubbers needed cleaning or something when the belt was chewing up, but clearly we're getting a bit of a pain here. So I'm going to get all this back together and we'll give it one more go and then see what we need to do from there. Right, she's back for what is going to be the last time as far as I'm concerned for the moment. So we've got it turning. Let's have a look, see what happens then. Let's try and find a tape. Right, okay, so it's slightly too big. You can see that is turning already. Right, hang on then. Right, well, it's rewinding. It's not fast forwarding now. It's playing when it wants to. And chewing up tapes. Yeah, it's slightly too big. Fast forward's not working at all. And it's still spitting the tape out. Oh my days. Well, we're having some fun today, aren't we? So I've kind of done everything I can on this side. Everything's been cleaned. The tyres were cleaned. We've tried different sizes. We've tried new tyres. And ultimately I think it's come down to the fact that the clutch must have gone on it. So what I've got here is the clutch mechanism in various parts. Like so. I've cleaned up the clutch plate. The felt doesn't look or feel too bad, but it's slightly contaminated. So I've found a piece of sort of felt that I'm going to put in just as a packer to try and give it a bit more bite, a bit more resistance, and see if that works. I'm going to rebuild the clutch now, get the original idler tyre back on, see if that works. Okay folks, where we're at, I've just reconnected the power again, so all the idler mechanism and the new clutch assemblies are all in there. The belt's on. I've changed the belt. I've actually rerouted it. I've followed originally the path that the belt was on, assuming, and you know what they say about assumption, but I assumed it was the correct path, but it's been bothering me a bit. So I had already changed it before now, and that didn't seem to fix it, presumably because there's some other issue anyway. But I've just put a bigger belt back on, and I believe that's the correct pathway. So you can probably tell in my voice this is getting a little bit tiresome today, but let's see if we can sort it now. So we'll start with the Right, okay. So, rewind is working. Fast forward is working. Right, here we go then, the moment of truth. Oh, hang on. Oh, come on, nice. Do you know what? I think we've sorted it. I think we've sorted it, you know. I genuinely think we've done it. So, okay, well, let's try it with the tape the other way round. There's possibly more load on it. And play. Please, please, please. Do you know what? I reckon we've sorted it, you know. I reckon we've sorted it. Well, I'm going to leave it running for a little bit longer. In a moment anyway. But basically then, yeah. Yeah, I think we've done it. So let me just get you back into frame and we'll explain what's what. Well, I literally just went to go and make a coffee. I thought I'm going to risk it and leave it. And we are now on number, 45, I think, on the counter. And it's worked absolutely fine. I think that's it. I think we've actually found the problem and sorted it now. Incidentally, if you do want to buy me a coffee, that'd be fantastic. Head over to my Buy Me a Coffee page. You can get me over there if you want to know about belt sizes or any sort of technical info or stuff that I haven't included in the videos. I'm always happy to help. Just, you know, sort of help me a bit in return. That'd be massively appreciated. But anyway, enough of that. Let's see if we can just have a very quick recap then, because it was quite a hectic last hour or so, and I'm not sure how much of this I'll edit out of the video. So, essentially, what we've got is a tape that would not... It was chewing up tapes, basically, is what it said when I bought it. I figured that'd probably just be maybe the take-up belt needs doing, or maybe even the idler tyre needs a bit of a clean or something like that. So what did we do? Well, we've cleaned all the mech, cleaned the capstan, the pinch roller, got the running gear working okay, but it was still chewing tapes. Put new belts on, still chewing tapes. We then cleaned all the idlers. Didn't make any difference. I replaced the idler tyre with a O-ring, slightly smaller but fresher rubber. That didn't help. Replaced that with a larger O-ring, which had its own complications and didn't help anyways. Gave the clutch roller a proper decent clean. That didn't help. It was just absolutely just marginal, I think. And yeah, I couldn't seem to get to the bottom of it. Also realised that the original belt wasn't right either. Now that's interesting, because it looked pretty tight in there, to be honest. But whoever'd been in here before, and there must have been someone in here before, I'd commented that the belt was too tight, and I was surprised. It was quite a fresh looking belt. But yeah, they'd obviously routed it incorrectly as well. So I'd blindly just followed that route in, and that obviously hadn't helped. But even then, by putting a bigger belt on and rerouting the belt to where it should be, nothing fixed any of it. So in the end, there was only one thing left, and it was just the clutch was just slipping enough, so it was binding. It was still driving all the time, and that was why, you know, we sort of went on and tried a load of different other things, because I made the assumption, again, there, you know what they say about assumptions, but I'd made the assumption that the clutch was okay because it was doing everything else it was supposed to do. It was just marginally slipping. So basically stripped the clutch down, put some new clutch material in there, and reassembled all of that. Got the idler back in and just put everything back together and left her running now, and she's absolutely fine. So I'm quite confident that we've sorted that. So it's been a bit of a session, and this has been a bit of a monologue on my part, so thanks for bearing with me. But anyway, as far as that's concerned, I think we've sorted the tape. Now the tape mech's finally finished. We'll just give these switches a bit of a clean as well. I did have a look at the clock. I've stripped it apart, given it a clean, removed a few parts around inside and tried to bend them back into shape and what have you. It's just not playing ball. I've got it to sort of come on to a degree, to a greater or lesser extent once you actually press on various parts of it. but to be honest, that was always going to be a bit of a sideshow, so I'm not going to do any more with that today. Just going to clean out the rest of the casing now and get this thing back together, I think. So what I'm going to do now is literally just do everything in reverse, get it back in, wire it back up, and hopefully I'll see you on the other side. So here it is then, the Hitachi TRK-8130E. Now the weather's changed, it's blowing a gale and the rain's hammering on the window, so apologies for the background noise, but I'm delighted to say that the outlook is much brighter in here. We've had this beautiful little boombox on the shelf for a little while, and I'm delighted that we finally got the chance to get it up and running today. Now overall it wasn't too bad, it was in fairly good cosmetic condition. It was quite dirty, a bit grimy, needed a bit of a clean. I think the aerial was loose on it and it chewed tapes, and the selector switches were a little bit noisy, but clean the switches and now selection between the different wave bands on the radio is fantastic. That's excellent, we sorted that, no problem. The issue really was with the tape. So when I first got this, I was told that it chews tapes, and I figured that's probably just a belt issue, maybe an idler tyre issue, something like that. So I went ahead today, as you saw, got it open, figured the belt was quite tight on that, so someone may well have been in there before, was my initial thought. But anyway, assumed that that was the correct belt and the correct belt path, so took that for granted and went ahead merrily cleaning and servicing the usual parts as we would. Now, changing various tyres from a selection of sizes, which didn't cure the problem, finally traced it down to an issue with a slightly slipping clutch, just enough to be annoying and kind of throw us off the scent a bit, because it hadn't totally gone, but it was only under certain conditions that it wasn't working. Anyway, we sorted that out, all working nicely in the end. And as I say, note to self, don't trust anybody else that's been in before, because the belt, not only was it too tight, the belt path itself was wrong. So I've put a bigger belt in, it's now the correct path and everything's working tickety-boo. Finally put it all back together, give it a nice clean and polish, tightened the aerial, polished the aerial as well. Looks fantastic, sounds great. So I'll just give you a little listen to the radio now.
You say no one will love you as you are. And all through the night. Yes! Kiss breakfast.
So you can see that sounds pretty awesome. And I've got to say, as I'm looking at this now, it's shining beautifully. There are so many little grooves and nooks and crannies. There's actually 91 little grooves at the back of the casing on the top. Ask me how I know, with a cocktail stick and a damp cloth, but we got there. Anyway, let's give you a bit of the tape now, just to make sure everything's tickety-boo. And I love that soft eject mechanism on there, that's fantastic. Okay guys, so fast forward. Lovely, rewind. Lovely, right, okay, here we go then, let's try play. I couldn't play you too much there for content match reasons, but it's working first time every time now. I'm delighted, really pleased with it. So as I say, thanks ever so much for watching. I'll be back soon with more boomboxes, Walkmans, all kinds of stuff. In the meantime, stay safe and all the best for now. Bye bye.